very much. I am indeed delighted to be here today. It would be 1:30 late in the night in Delhi, from where I have just come here. So if I slip somewhere in between, please don't mind. In 2006, January, Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and our leader, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, gave me the responsibility of looking after the Urban Development Ministry as a junior minister. And one very interesting thing which happened, which I still remember, rather two very interesting things which happened. The first was, as a part of capacity building program for all the officers who work in the urban areas, in the urban local bodies, with the help of World Bank, we started a capacity building program. And in this capacity building program, we held a number of workshops. And after 1 year, when we wanted people who have already been trained to go and further train others as master trainers, and in the States, when we started looking for such master trainers whom we trained 1 year before, we couldn't find them. When we inquired into, they were all transferred from urban department into rural department. The same thing happened when, at the same time, we looked at the number of towns who, as per the census definition, which means that any area which has more than 5,000 population and a density of more than 400 people living in a square kilometer, wherein 75% of the male members are into non-agriculture occupation, such census towns didn't have the Why disparity? Because in urban areas, the disparity is much more than in rural areas. Even though the Gini coefficient of India, the income Gini coefficient in India is much lower than China, Brazil, South Africa. But the 2009-10 Gini coefficient in urban area has shown an increase from 0.38 to 0.39. Whereas in rural area it has gone down from 0.30 to 0.29, but in urban areas it has grown up. Even the MPC, the monthly per capita expenditure of a family, of the lowest decile, difference between the lowest decile and the highest decile in urban area is 1014% in 2009-10 as compared to 814% in 2004-5. So in urban areas the disparity is more evident, in urban areas the disparity is more stark, and this is a challenge which we have to face. And this is a work which our ministry is looking at. The second thing is the problem of shelter in urban areas. Again, by way of shelter, you can see slums, side by side, big houses, farmhouses, big buildings, tall buildings, and this is something which in Mumbai, in Delhi, in big mega cities, this is something which is evident, and this is again a challenge for us. 2011 census shows a very interesting figure. It says that in India we have 78.87 million households. And the number of houses which India has as per 2011 census, it is 78.48 million. So if you do simple subtraction, there is a shortage of just 0.39 million houses in the country, which is not possible. But where is the flaw? Why is it so? The answer lies in the fact that the same census says that there are 10.12% vacant houses in these urban areas. Now these 10.12% vacant houses means that as far as the policy of the government is concerned, as far as the policy of the development control norms are concerned, there is a flaw in it. On one hand, we have calculated a shortage of 18.78 million houses in the country. On the other hand, in urban areas, we have 10.12% of vacant houses, and on the other hand, we have such huge shortage of urban poor houses. This means policy is somewhere going wrong. And the reason for this, just 0.39, which is 0.5% of the total shortage as compared to 2001 census when it was 3%, it has come down from 3% to 0.5%. What we have seen is that the gross credit deployment by the banks to the housing sector has gone up tremendously in these last 2 decades. In 1997, the total gross credit deployment by the banks to the housing sector was $1.7 billion. And in 2011, it went up from $1.7 billion to $69 billion. And this is the reason for such a rise in houses. But it hasn't reached the people, it hasn't reached the target where it should have been. So when China talks about ghost towns, we talk about the vacant houses in our country. And both these are bubbles which, if goes uncorrected, can burst any time. And this is again a challenge before us. In order to meet this challenge for the housing sector, we have come up with Rajiv Awas Yojana, in which we intend to spend around 1 billion, for 1 million houses we intend to spend about 20 billion rupees, $20 billion in next 5 years. But again, this alone is not the answer. We are coming up with the Credit Risk Guarantee Fund scheme and the external commercial borrowing by these organizations, which can borrow money from outside and spend it for the affordable housing purposes. And in this Credit Risk Guarantee Fund scheme, we have put up 1,000 crore rupees, which would act as a collateral security for any poor people, for any poor person who wants to get credit for the house. We expect that around 50,000 to 60,000 crores, which means around 1 million houses can be constructed through this Credit Risk Guarantee Fund scheme. Again, 1 million houses through Rajiv Awas Yojana is what we are calculating. Similarly, with private sector stepping in, we are asking the state governments to reserve 15% of the floor area ratio or 35% of the dwelling units exclusively for the urban poor, for the economically weaker section. It is done in most of the developed countries, and I am sure that this is something which can be done in India also, and it has been made as one of the mandatory conditions to get money from the central government. The second challenge, as I said, about this rapid pace of urbanization is skill development and education. You will be happy to know that in 10th plan, we spent just $9.7 billion, which went up to $53.9 billion in 11th plan on education. And in 12th plan, we have set aside $82.4 billion for education, which is a huge jump from 10th plan, which was when it was just $9.7 billion. So this education and skill development is the top priority of our government. In the last 9 years, we have opened, the total number of central universities have gone up from 17 to 44 in our country, IITs from 7 to 16, IIMs from 6 to 13, and the gross enrollment in higher education has gone up from 12.3% to 18%. Solid waste in India is not as high as it is elsewhere. So when a private company comes in, thinks of collection of solid waste and then converting it into an energy or for some other useful purposes, the biggest and first disadvantage which it has to face is the lower calorific value in the waste, solid waste which is generated in a city. But it has started in certain areas. In Delhi particularly, again, a part of this entire exercise has been given to private sector, which is working quite well in certain colonies, wherein the collection of garbage is done through a private company which comes to the doors and which have such colonies which have approachable roads. So this is something which has gradually started. But again, looking at the urban India, particularly for the urban poor, we have still in urban India some places, some households which do not have any facilities for sewage, where the night soil is still collected by the humans. This is something where the challenge is for us. So we have set aside around 600 crore rupees to be spent in 2 years' time in order to eradicate this kind of menace straight away. And this, even the census 2011 has found that there are 208,000 such households in urban India, half of which are in UP alone, in which night soil is still served by the humans. So our first priority from the central government is to eradicate this menace, and this is something which we are doing. Otherwise, the other things are being taken up directly by the municipalities, particularly in the smaller and middle-sized towns, and it is working quite well, and gradually it is going to catch up. Thank you.
Just 2 or 3 examples of towns that are doing this very well, sanitation, in your opinion.
Well, Pune is doing well as far as solid waste management is concerned. There are some smaller towns, I do not offhand remember the names. Delhi, as I have said, has partially done such kind of an exercise. But if you log on to Indian Express, Ishar Aluwalia writes columns on such successful examples. So if you want to have a look at such successful examples city-wise, she has quite a number of them in her column in Indian Express.
Hi Ajay, my name is Ravi. Thanks so much for sharing nice ideas and stats. My question is, over the years, especially Congress government, brought so many schemes, welfare schemes, whether it's housing or it is unemployment or whatever it is. But the question is really, the bottom level, the end users and end beneficiaries are not reaching those benefits. The funds are releasing, but at the implementation level, they are not doing well. So, under your leadership, what are the things you are taking care to handle this scenario?
Well, as I have said, I have also given you certain examples as far as the health and education is concerned. The literacy rate has gone up, the IMR has gone down, MMR has gone down, life expectancy has gone up. So these things are showing results.
either grows up or it grows wide. As an urban housing minister, I mean, you gave us a good insight into the statistics of how much money is going where. Can you give an insight into the policies that are being made to kind of shape the cities up? I mean, how tall they're going to grow, how wide they're going to grow, on the basis of, sanitation, accessibility to the health services, fire departments, those kind of things. Does the government have a plan in place for that? Or is it just one of those things that the developers come in and they decide to put up a building wherever they want? Or, I mean, because the rules and regulations in India have, and I'm being brutally honest, I mean, everybody knows a way to work around them. And to what level are they being enforced, and what are the policies governing them?
Well, first of all, I think it's a misconception when you say that the existing cities, big cities are growing. Kolkata municipality, the number of people, the population is going down. Mumbai Municipal Corporation, it is stagnating. So the figures which I gave to you in the beginning, the number of towns grew from 5,161 towns to 7,935 towns. So the number of towns have grown. So it is not the cities, the existing cities are growing. The number of towns are growing, and when the number of towns are growing, it is easier to work in these towns because still the population density is available to play with. But when you ask about the planning, one of the most important component of our Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission is that any city which wants any money from the government, and we have given money to about 900 big cities, which means about 60 to 70% of our urban population, is to have a city development plan and city mobility plan. On top of that, now we have made it mandatory under Rajiv Awas Yojana for any city or any state to take money from us to have a slum rehabilitation plan and slum improvement plan. So it is not that we are not insisting on plan, and with these plans we are asking these cities to look for the latest technologies. The GIS mapping, MIS data entry is a must. GIS mapping, without GIS mapping we are not accepting any of these city development plans. Urban plans, urban mobility plans also are a must. This is something which we are insisting upon, and things are changing. We didn't have the capacity earlier. As I said, we trained people in the urban areas to find out that after 1 year that officer has moved into the rural area. Now what we have done is we have asked all the cities and states to have at least 6 technical officers. One expert in GIS mapping, one expert in MIS entry, one expert town planner, one expert architect, one expert engineer. Like that, six experts every city or state should have, and the money for this would be paid by the government. So this is the easiest and fastest way. We are thinking that this capacity building and planning of these cities can happen, and it has already started, and very soon you will find results for this taking place.
And what about the villages in India, like designs for the houses or things like that? I mean, is there a certain policy that is being enforced to have certain specific guidelines, and to help the people build the villages as well?
Well, as far as the height and the population density and FSI, the floor space index norms are concerned, this is something which is a state subject. But we are insisting upon all the states and cities to increase the FSI and population density norms. Because we would not like cities to grow horizontally. We wouldn't like a horizontal sprawl of the city. We would like cities to grow taller so that they can provide better services to the citizens of the city. And it is much more energy efficient to have taller cities rather than having urban horizontal sprawl. So these smart cities development is something which we are insisting upon the states and the cities to carry on. And with proper planning, very soon you are going to, and if you happen to visit smaller cities like Lucknow, Ludhiana, Jalandhar, Guwahati, you would see lots of changes happening. No, it's not only Delhi, Mumbai or Kolkata. Go to tier 2 cities, go to tier 3 cities. Lots of things are happening, and you will see if you visit even after 3-4 years, city being totally transformed. India is moving ahead, urban India is moving ahead.
We have time for one last question.
So you talked a little bit about the impressive strides made with respect to literacy levels. Some of the data that I've seen more recently talked about a lot of the gains coming from enrollment, and there still being an opportunity with respect to learning levels actually in the schools. Could you maybe comment a bit on the opportunity that you see there?
Well, we have just we have just enacted our Right to Education Act in the country, which is going to take us quite a long way. And the amount of money, as I said, $9.87 billion to around $81 billion in a span of just 10 years is the amount of money which we are proposing to spend on education. So when we are putting in money, and the state government, we are giving it to the state because education is in the concurrent list. So we are giving the money with the help of state governments, we are spending it. And as I said, the number of IITs, look at the number of central universities which have increased. Look at the number of IITs, the number of IIMs. And I have given you this figure of just last 8 to 9 years. If suppose number of central universities increases from 14 to 44, it's a huge jump. IITs 2 or 3 times, number of IIMs. So all such higher education institutes, these numbers are also growing, and also the literacy rate, and also with the help of Right to Education, once it is fully implemented, the states want more money for this to be fully implemented, which we have provided for the 12th plan. You would find lot better literacy rate